Before we begin, a quick message from our sponsors. Your support helps us keep bringing you new sleep stories for free. You won't be bothered by any ads once the story begins.
We all have routines. I'm Jabron, and with diabetes, mine was finger sticks. Sometimes, I skip them because it hurt. The Freestyle Libre 3CGM changed that. It gives me glucose insights without finger sticks. Learn more at freestylelibre.us.
Finger sticks are required if your glucose alarms or readings do not match symptoms, or when you see check blood glucose symbol for the first 12 hours. The views expressed should not be used for medical diagnosis or treatment as a substitute for professional medical advice. Individual circumstances may vary. For prescription only. Safety info found at freestylelibre.us.
When she said I don't dance now, I make money moves, that was a mission statement for a whole new generation.
Respect, but that's not the Mount Rushmore. Listen, cash rules everything around me. When that line dropped, it changed the whole hustle. The greatest tracks are never finished. They're just debated forever. Introducing the Sprite Living Tracklist. 50 tracks that shape the culture from 6 decades of hip-hop. Scan the QR code on a Sprite or Sprite Zero Sugar to see the full breakdown. Obey your thirst. Sprite.
Welcome to Deep Sleep Stories, where the day can soften at the edges and your thoughts can drift like feathers on a quiet breeze. Tonight, you'll be carried to a glassy lake at dusk, where sleepy birds glide over still water and the world grows gentle and slow. Take a moment to let your body settle exactly as it is. Let your shoulders drop as if they're being warmed by a calm, invisible sunlight. Unclench your jaw, soften your brow, and allow your hands to rest in their own comfortable way. Breathe in slowly, as though you're sipping in cool, clean air. Breathe out as if you're releasing a long-held sigh. Imagine the hush that comes when evening arrives without hurry. The light turns velvety and blue. The air cools into something kind, and every sound becomes quieter, rounder, more distant. With each breath, you can let go of whatever you've been carrying. Nothing needs solving right now. There is nowhere to go, nothing to prove, no one to impress. Just this quiet moment and the soft promise of a peaceful story. And as you breathe, you can feel yourself being led toward a place where the water is so still, it seems to be dreaming. And above it, the birds begin their slow, sleepy journey home. The lake lay in a wide cradle of reeds and low hills, as if the earth had shaped a gentle palm and decided to hold something precious in it. In the last light of evening, the surface looked like polished stone, dark, smooth, unbroken, reflecting the sky so perfectly that it was difficult to know where air ended and water began. A narrow path wound toward the shore, pressed into the grass by many quiet footsteps. It did not feel like a path made for rushing. It belonged to people who walked slowly and listened, people who let their thoughts fall behind them like loose scarves, people who understood that arriving was not as important as the soft unfolding of the way. Along that path came a traveler, unhurried and calm. The traveler's cloak was light and simple, and their footsteps were careful not to disturb the world's resting mood. They did not carry much, only what could be held without effort. Their eyes had the sleepy shine of someone who had been awake long enough to start longing for the comfort of night. They paused near the water's edge, where the reeds gathered in whispering clusters. Each reed moved slightly, brushing the next as if sharing secrets. The air smelled of damp earth and cool leaves, and somewhere far back in the grasses, a small frog offered a single note, then fell silent again, as if satisfied with its contribution. The traveler sat on a smooth, flat stone, warmed faintly by the day, and now releasing that warmth slowly, steadily into the evening. It was the kind of warmth that did not demand attention, only offered it. The traveler's breathing slowed in response, matching the lake's quiet rhythm, as though the water were breathing too. Out across the lake, birds moved like drifting thoughts. A pair of swans floated near the center, their white bodies dimmed by twilight into soft, silvery forms. They glided without ripples, as if they had learned the secret of traveling without disturbing what they crossed. Farther out, a few ducks traced loose circles, their heads dipping now and then, tasting the water's surface as if sampling the night. Above them, the first stars appeared. They did not sparkle sharply, but glowed with a tender steadiness, and the lake accepted their reflections with quiet devotion, holding each star twice, one in the sky, one in the water, like a lullaby sung in harmony. The traveler watched, and in watching began to feel watched over, not by anything stern or demanding, but by the lake itself, by the reeds, by the patient hills, by the slow, dependable turning of evening into night. A breeze moved across the shore, barely more than a thought. It stroked the traveler's hair and then wandered over the water, smoothing it even further, as if the lake could become smoother than smooth. The birds seemed to notice too. Their movements grew slower, their wings less eager to lift. Sleep was coming for them, and they were willing. On the far side of the lake, where the reeds thickened into a green-gold wall, a heron stood perfectly still. It was tall and poised, a delicate pillar of patience. Its reflection stood beneath it like a twin in another world. And even the heron's stillness felt like part of the lake's calm design. The traveler's eyelids grew heavy, but not in a way that made them fight sleep. It was the kind of heaviness that invited surrender, the way a soft blanket invites a body to relax into it. Yet the traveler stayed awake a little longer, not out of effort, but out of gentle curiosity, because the evening here felt like a story that wanted to be listened to. As the sky deepened, the lake began to change its colors. The surface turned from blue to ink to something even darker, a shade that seemed made for holding dreams. The last line of sunset melted away behind the hills, and the world exhaled, relieved to be finished with brightness. From somewhere above, a low, resonant call drifted down like a note played on a hollow flute. The traveler looked up and saw a small group of birds crossing the sky in a loose, lazy formation. Their wings beat slowly, steadily, and their bodies passed over the lake as if they were a thought moving through a mind at rest. They circled once, then again, as if deciding where to settle, and then one by one they began to lower themselves, wings widening, feet reaching. Their landing was so gentle it seemed impossible, like leaves falling onto silk. They touched the water and became part of it, floating in the dark mirror, their shapes softly outlined by starlight. The traveler's attention drifted with them. There was no need to focus sharply. The scene was meant to be taken in the way one takes in warmth, without counting it, without measuring it, just allowing it to spread. A little closer to shore, a family of small birds tucked themselves into the reeds. They were not loud or fussy. They made only tiny rustling sounds, like a page turning in a book someone had nearly finished reading. The reeds sheltered them, swaying with protective tenderness, and soon the birds grew still, their heads tucked under their wings, their bodies becoming small, feathered commas in the sentence of night. The traveler smiled, a small expression that came and went like a ripple that never fully formed. In the distance, the heron finally moved. It lifted one leg, placed it carefully, and stepped into shallower water. Its movements were so slow and deliberate that time seemed to stretch to accommodate them. Then, as if the heron had decided it was time for the world to be even quieter, it folded its wings close and lowered its head. Not to hunt, not to strike, but to rest. Its long neck curved gently and its body became a still shape among still shapes. The traveler felt a kind of permission in that. Permission to be quiet, to be unproductive, to be simply present. And something inside them loosened, a knot they hadn't realized they'd been holding. Behind the traveler, the path that led to the lake continued into a small grove of trees. The trees were old and friendly, trunks thick and steady, branches reaching overhead in a protective arch. Even in the dark, the grove seemed to glow faintly, as though it had stored up daylight and now released it in small, careful portions. The traveler stood and turned toward the grove, drawn not by restlessness but by the sense that the night had more softness to offer. Their steps were slow, their feet finding the earth without effort. As they entered the trees, the air changed, becoming richer with the scent of bark and moss. Leaves overhead made a faint shivering sound, like distant applause meant for no one in particular. In the center of the grove was a small clearing, and in that clearing sat a low wooden bench, worn smooth by time. It looked as though it had been built not for conversation, but for quiet sitting, for listening to crickets, for watching the sky through the lace of branches. The traveler sat there, facing back toward the lake. From here, the water was partially hidden by reeds and tree trunks, but the reflections were still visible. Shards of starlight, a soft sheen of darkness, a slow-moving glimmer where birds floated like dreams that had found a place to rest. As the traveler watched, something subtle began to happen. The air above the lake grew faintly luminous, not bright, not flashy, but softly alive. It was as if the night itself had a gentle inner light, a glow that could only be seen when one stopped trying to see too hard. A single bird, small and pale, drifted across the water near the shore. It moved without sound, and its reflection moved with it, perfectly aligned. The bird seemed almost unreal, like a piece of moonlight that had learned to float. It paused near a patch of reeds, then settled, tucking its head beneath its wing as if it had practiced this motion many times and always found it comforting. The traveler's breathing slowed further, guided by the scene. In and out, each breath, a soft wave lapping at the shore. Out on the lake, the group of birds that had landed earlier began to relax into stillness. Their bodies rocked gently as if the water were cradling them. Some tucked their heads under their wings. Others let their beaks rest against their chests. A few remained awake a little longer, blinking slowly, eyes half-lidded, as though they were reading the last lines of the day before closing the book. The lake held them all. The traveler noticed that even the sounds of the world seemed to be floating. A distant owl offered a low, rounded call from somewhere in the hills. A cricket sang from the grass. The reeds whispered. And beneath it all was the lake's own quiet, a deep silence that was not empty but full. Full of calm, full of steadiness, full of the kind of peace that does not need explanation. As the night deepened, thin mist began to rise from the water. It lifted slowly, curling like a sleeping cat stretching. It did not obscure the lake so much as soften it, blurring the edges, making everything look more dreamlike. The mist drifted across the surface and wrapped itself around the floating birds in a gentle veil. They did not startle, they did not scatter. They accepted it as part of the night's blanket. The traveler watched the mist with heavy-lidded eyes. There was something soothing about its patience, the way it rose without urgency, as if it knew it had all the time in the world. It moved in slow ribbons, drifting toward the shore, then curling back again, making the lake look like a place where dreams might come to drink. In that mist, the traveler began to notice shapes, nothing sharp or frightening, only soft suggestions, a curve that could be a cloud, a shadow that might be a branch, a faint shimmer that looked like a tiny lantern floating just above the water. And then the shimmer became clearer, and the traveler realized it was not a lantern at all, but a cluster of fireflies moving together, their lights blinking in a gentle rhythm. They hovered near the reeds, then drifted out over the lake, their reflections blinking below them, doubling the quiet magic. The birds remained asleep, rocking gently, unaware or unconcerned with the fireflies' slow dance. The traveler felt that this was how the world was meant to be at night, alive but softly, magical but not demanding, mysterious but safe. A memory rose in the traveler's mind, not a sharp one, but a warm one, like remembering the feel of a blanket from childhood, or the sound of rain on a roof. The traveler couldn't quite name it and didn't need to. It was enough to feel it settle into their chest like a small, glowing ember of comfort. On the water, the swans drifted closer together, their long necks curving in mirrored arcs. Their bodies touched lightly, and they floated as one, a single calm shape. The ducks, too, clustered near a patch of reeds, and their movement grew so slow it seemed they were barely moving at all. The heron, still in the shallows, remained folded into rest. Even the trees in the grove seemed to lean inward, as if listening to the lake breathe. The traveler's head tipped slightly, not from effort, but from ease. Their shoulders sank, their hands relaxed on their lap. The bench beneath them felt steady, supportive, exactly what was needed. Across the lake, a small island rose from the water, barely visible in the dimness. It was more of a mound of reeds and a few low trees than a true island, but it had a presence, a quiet significance. The mist curled around it, and the fireflies drifted near, as if drawn by something there. The traveler's gaze settled on that island. It felt like a place that belonged to the birds, a sanctuary within a sanctuary. And in the hush of night, it seemed possible that something ancient lived there. Not a creature that would frighten, but a spirit of stillness, a keeper of calm. As the traveler watched, a faint movement stirred on the island. A bird, larger than the others, darker, with a wide wingspan, lifted its wings slowly, testing the air. It was a night bird, built for quiet flight, built for moving like a shadow that means no harm. It rose without sound and glided over the water, passing through mist and firefly light, leaving the lake undisturbed. It circled once above the sleeping birds, as if checking on them, as if counting them without needing numbers, as if ensuring every small feathered body was safe and warm. Then it drifted back toward the island and settled among the reeds, disappearing into the soft darkness. The traveler felt an even deeper reassurance settle over them. The lake was watched over, the birds were cared for. The night knew what it was doing. A breeze returned, slightly cooler now, carrying the scent of distant pine and the faint mineral smell of water. It moved through the grove, stirring leaves, brushing the traveler's cheeks like a gentle hand. It was not a wind that demanded attention. It was a lullaby wind, content to pass and go. The traveler's breathing became so quiet it was almost imperceptible. In the distance, the owl called once more, then fell silent, as if satisfied that everything was in its place. The mist thickened a little, turning the lake into a dreamscape. Stars still shone above, but their reflections below wavered softly, as if the water's dreams were shifting. The birds floated in that shifting starlight, still and trusting. Somewhere near the shore, a small bird stirred and adjusted its position, rustling feathers with a sound like silk brushing silk. It tucked its head again and became still. The traveler's eyes drifted closed for a moment, then opened again, slowly. There was no urgency to stay awake. There was no urgency to fall asleep. The night was patient. Sleep would come when it came, and that was enough. The traveler listened to the world. They listened to the tiny clicks of insects in the grass. They listened to the soft, distant lap of water against reeds. They listened to the hush between sounds, the deep quiet that held everything like a bowl holds water. In that listening, thoughts began to thin out. Not because the traveler forced them away, but because the thoughts simply became less interesting than the calm. Worries, plans, unfinished lists, all of them loosened and drifted like leaves on a slow current, moving farther from shore until they disappeared into the mist. The traveler's body grew heavier in the most pleasant way, as if gravity itself had become kinder. The bench supported them, the air wrapped around them, the grove held them, and beyond the trees, the lake continued its still, dreaming presence. On the water, the swans now looked like pale moons afloat on ink. The ducks were small shadows. The cluster of birds that had arrived earlier formed a gentle constellation, each feathered body a quiet star in the lake's dark sky. The fireflies drifted back toward the reeds, their lights blinking more slowly as if they too were growing sleepy. One by one their lights dimmed until only a few remained, pulsing faintly like the last notes of a song. The traveler's head leaned back against the bench. Their chest rose and fell with slow, even breaths. Their face softened into peace. And the night continued to deepen, not into something scary, but into something velvety and safe, like slipping beneath a warm blanket while rain taps softly at a window. On the island, the wide-winged night bird shifted once, then settled again. The heron remained folded, serene, and still. The reeds swayed, the mist curled, the stars watched, the lake dreamed. It dreamed of soft skies and endless calm. It dreamed of birds floating without fear. It dreamed of a traveler resting in a grove, letting the day dissolve into quiet. And as the lake dreamed, it seemed to invite the traveler into its dreaming. An invitation without words, offered through stillness and reflection, through gentle air and quiet water. The traveler's eyelids fluttered, then rested. Their breathing became a little deeper, a little slower. Their body accepted the night's steady comfort. The birds remained asleep, each one cradled by water, each one held by the lake's patience. Their feathers puffed slightly against the cool air, creating tiny pockets of warmth. Their dreams, if birds dreamed, were likely simple and sweet. Gliding, floating, the feeling of wind under wings, the safety of reeds, the soft embrace of mist. The traveler's mind too began to drift into simple things. The coolness of air on skin, the steady support of wood beneath the body, the faint scent of moss, the faraway call of an owl that had already quieted, the gentle idea that everything was okay. Time softened, moments stretched into comfort. The world became a slow rocking like water rocking a sleeping bird. The night grew quieter still. The mist smoothed into a single soft layer over the lake, like a blanket pulled up carefully. The stars remained, but their edges softened. The shore seemed farther away, as if the world were gently narrowing to only what mattered. Calm, breath, In the grove, the traveler's shoulders sank a little more, Their hands rested loosely, fingers uncurled. Their face looked peaceful in the dimness, as though the night had painted calm across it. On the water, the birds barely moved now, only the smallest rocking, the faintest drift. Heads remained tucked. Wings stayed folded. Everything was exactly where it needed to be. The lake held its reflections the way a lullaby holds a listener, steadily, tenderly, without needing anything in return. And so the traveler drifted the way a feather drifts down through still air, drifted the way a small boat drifts on a silent lake, drifted into a sleep that asked for nothing but surrender. Breath in, soft and slow. Breath out, long and easy. The grove stayed around them like a shelter. The lake stayed beyond like a dream. The birds slept, floating in quiet safety. And the night, kind and patient, continued to watch over everything. Good night, dear traveler. Sleep well.